All right, hey everybody. I have Allison with Center Pharmacy in Richland Center, Wisconsin, with me today. Allison, why don't you go on and introduce yourself and your pharmacy?
Yeah, so I'm Allison Cooley. I graduated in 2020 from University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Pharmacy, um, and I am the manager of Center Pharmacy, as Christopher said, in Richland Center, Wisconsin. And we are actually owned by us and another pharmacy in Boscobel, Wisconsin, are owned by the same owner, Michelle Farrell, and we are in a very rural part of Wisconsin, in southwest Wisconsin. So Richland Center is a town of around 5,000 or so, and so we get to know our patients very well.
That's wonderful. So, one of the main things that we wanted to talk about today was your experience in the fellowship that you completed a couple of years ago. Can you possibly talk about maybe the experience that you had during the fellowship, and let's maybe specifically talk about your capstone project while you were in the fellowship?
Yeah, definitely. So I was completing the fellowship actually as our pharmacy. We the Michelle had bought this new pharmacy that was existing. So it used to be a Thrifty White that ran for 40 years previously by the same owner. And so we were actually in the process of building a brand new building too. And so not only had she just purchased that pharmacy, but then we were going to be moving the pharmacy in July to this new building. So I did the fellowship in hopes of trying to gain some resources to try to expand the workflow that already existed at Center Pharmacy. And it was a great experience. Because it allowed me, so it gave a lot of resources that you get through NCPA, so certain forms to track, resources to help with sync or track hypertension or chronic care management. But the part that it really helped in doing is taking that a step further into, okay, now we have all these resources, how do we implement that into the workflow? So I was coming into this pharmacy that had a set way of doing things for 40 years and trying to make some changes here and there to expand it beyond just dispensing medicines and looking at the whole patient. And the fellowship really helped that through our discussions, and also discussions with learning from the other fellows. Like, we tried this at our pharmacy, that didn't work, but this worked better. And so learning from other people's stories and experiences, and all of us kind of also learning together and sharing ideas. There was a lot of really good discussion during some of the sessions that, we gave advice to someone was like, I'm really struggling with this. How do I get this implemented into my flow? And then I could say, oh, well, we tried this and it worked, or this didn't work. And so it was that extra step into actually practically implementing all of those awesome resources that NCPA provides. And because you can have all those resources, but if you're not using them, it doesn't add a whole lot to the experience. So trying to actually use those resources and what worked for you. And as far as my capstone project, so I focused on the original pharmacy that Michelle owned. Boscobel has a very robust sync program, MedSync program, and Center Pharmacy had a MedSync program, but it was a lot smaller, not nearly as many patients on it. There was one technician that just ran it, and she actually had just went down to part-time in hopes to retire. So there wasn't a whole lot of other technicians that were cross-trained or really had any part in the MedSync, and I wanted to make it part of our core workflow and not have it this separate, blocked off part of our pharmacy. So I focused on getting patients enrolled in our sync program and working with the staff and the technicians to help make that happen and to have them feel confident in talking about it in a way that patients realize the why and the benefits of it. And so I expanded our MedSync program, had only, I don't know, like 400, 500 patients at the start, and it went up to close to 900 by, over the course of just like 6 months or so. So, and the things that I was trying to, empower the staff to be able to talk about it, why we do it also is a big thing. So instead of me just telling them do this, helping them understand why do we want to do it? How will it make your life easier, well, the phone will probably ring less, which it did. And they noticed that. They said, oh, the phone's not ringing as much. That's because everyone's prescriptions are ready for them on time. So it really helped. The fellowship helped in getting those resources to start that and implement that, and also helped in knowing how to talk to our support staff and how to empower, educate them and empower them to be able to also want to be a part of that. So
Absolutely. And being able to clinically innovate and add a MedSync program or enhance a MedSync program in a pharmacy is obviously a huge deal. Since the fellowship has ended, and obviously you've been out in practice since then, have you guys maybe implemented any new clinical programs, or are you looking to do anything that you might have heard about during the fellowship or gained insight from that you were like, wow, this is something we could do in the long term?
yeah, so we are, as part of Flip the Pharmacy, we are focusing right now on hypertension, and so we're using our MedSync program to make it easier to flag patients that are, on blood pressure medicines that they pick up every month, and asking the questions, how's your blood pressure been? And also something that we're trying to implement a little more consistently, but is educating the techs too on what patients might qualify for a blood pressure monitor to be covered by their insurance, because there are, there's certain plans that will cover it. And so educating them on how to know that, or how to recognize that, and then what to do about it. Because a lot of them didn't know. They were like, oh, they would, like, yep, they cover it, and they pay us to, we do it as a prescription and we get reimbursed for that. And then we can, the patient doesn't have the excuse of, I don't have a blood pressure monitor. Yes, and we can do a comprehensive med review then and teach them how to use it. And that might be something also to bill for. So some services that will help the patient, but also things that we are already doing and just expanding it a little bit more, and actually documenting and billing for those those interventions, those reviews. So I think right now, kind of the hypertension, something through the fellowship, I learned a lot about Pioneer, because Pioneer can do a lot. There are, our system. So learning things that you can do in that system that I didn't realize that actually helped. So knowing where to find if the doctor puts in a patient's weight or blood pressure, or we did dispense quite a few oral antivirals for COVID. So we needed to know kidney function. And so there were a lot of times where the doctor put it in there and we didn't even have to call. We'd call the doctor once, we wouldn't have to call 6 times trying to get all those values. So there were a lot of things I learned from it that I didn't even, going into it, didn't think I'd learn. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. That's really helpful. And learning how other people are using things like that. So.
And that's wonderful. I think the teamwork that you have going on at your pharmacy is allowing for you guys to enhance these clinical services, billing opportunities to increase revenue. So it's wonderful hearing how everything has played out, like, since you've completed the fellowship. So I'd like to thank you really for taking the time today to interview with us. And obviously it was a wonderful interview.
Thank you.